Shalom, welcome back to the Sequential Midrash Aggadah series. Today we are in Bereishis Rabbah Chapter 9 on one of the most famous lines in the opening chapter of the Torah. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. That sounds simple. But the Midrash hears something enormous in those words. Not just the trees were good, or the sun and moon were good, or Adam was good. The Midrash says all of it was very good. And then it starts naming things that we would never have called good on our own. Death, sleep, the evil inclination, affliction, Gehinnom, judgment, earthly government, even the angel of death. So the big question of this chapter is not, was creation beautiful? The question is much deeper. Can we learn to see the whole created order the way God sees it? Not the way we see it in pieces. Not the way we see it when one painful detail fills our entire field of vision. But the way the Creator sees it. From beginning to end, from this world to the world to come, from the struggle to the purpose. Chapter 9 begins by teaching us how to read the Torah up to this point. Rabbi Levi opens with the verse in Proverbs. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, and the glory of kings to search out a matter. From the beginning of Bereishis until this verse, the Midrash says, God is concealing. Creation is full of mystery. The Torah tells us just enough to know that God created, ordered, separated, named, blessed, and judged the world good. But it does not answer every question. It does not expose every secret. That itself is part of the honor of heaven. Then, after creation reaches completion, the human mission begins. Now it becomes the glory of kings to search out a matter. And in the language of the sages, those kings are the people who study Torah. So this chapter is not just explaining a verse. It is giving us a method. Creation begins with concealment. And then Torah invites us to search. God hides depth inside the world, and the student of Torah slowly uncovers it. The next word the Midrash focuses on is behold. And behold, it was very good. Rabbi Tankuma says, this means the world was created in its proper time. Not too early, not too late. Exactly when it was fit to be created. Rabbi Abahu adds a startling image. God created worlds and destroyed them until he created this world and said, this one pleases me. That is not meant to make creation sound random. It means that the world we live in, with all its tension and imperfection, is not an accident. It is the world that serves the divine purpose. This world, with choice, risk, concealment, and growth, is the one God chose. Then the Midrash looks at the word all. God saw all that he had made. A human king, says Rabbi Yohanan, looks up at the upper part of his palace with one glance and down at the lower part with another glance. Human vision is divided. We see one thing at a time. We see today, but not tomorrow. We see pain, but not always its repair. We see the lower world, but not the upper world. But the Holy One sees the upper realms and the lower realms together, in one glance. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish adds that God saw this world and the world to come together. That is the key to the whole chapter. When God calls creation very good, He is not ignoring the painful parts. He is seeing them inside a larger picture. We live inside a single frame. God sees the whole film. That matters because the Midrash is teaching us a spiritual discipline. Before we rush to explain pain away, we have to admit that our view is partial. Before we call something meaningless, we have to remember that the Torah's word all includes dimensions we have not yet seen fully and endings we have not yet reached or understood clearly. Then the Midrash turns to the word very. Rabbi Kama bar Kanina compares it to a king who builds a palace, looks at it and says, my palace, may you always find favor before me. Rabbi Yonasan compares it to a king who prepares a bridal canopy and a home for his daughter, and says, my daughter, may this canopy always find favor before me. In other words, God looks at the world with affection. The world is not a machine that he switches on and walks away from. It is his palace. It is a dwelling prepared for relationship. It is a place where the Shekinah can be revealed. But there is a quiet warning inside the blessing. May you always find favor. The world has potential, but human beings can elevate it or damage it. A palace can remain worthy of the king, or it can become neglected. A canopy can be a place of loyalty or a place of betrayal. So, very good is not only a description, it is a responsibility. Now comes the most surprising teaching in the chapter. Rabbi Meir reads the phrase, and behold, it was very good, as a reference to death. Death is very good. We have to be careful here. The Midrash is not saying that grief is easy. It is not telling a mourner, do not feel pain. The Torah knows mourning. The Torah knows tears. But the Midrash is asking, why did God include mortality in the structure of the world? One answer is that death protects the world from human arrogance. The Midrash speaks about figures like Hiram and Nebuchadnezzar, rulers who imagined themselves almost divine. If human beings could live forever in this world, power could become endless. Evil could harden without interruption. A person could mistake himself for a god. Mortality humbles the human being. It reminds every empire, every ruler, and every ego, you are not the creator. Another answer is that death prevents a dishonest religious calculation. If only the wicked died and the righteous lived forever, people could misunderstand righteousness as a technique for physical survival. The wicked might say, fine, we will do a few commandments too, and then we can live forever. So death comes to all, and the meaning of mitzvos is lifted out of cheap calculation. We do not serve God merely as a trick to avoid death. We serve God because truth is truth. Rabbi Yohanan says death is good because when the wicked die, they cease angering God and harming the world. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says death allows the righteous to receive a double reward and the wicked to face the consequence of what they chose. The insight is difficult but powerful. Death is not good because loss feels good. Death is very good because in the total design of creation, it limits evil, humbles pride, creates moral seriousness, and prepares the soul for a reality beyond this temporary body. Then the Midrash says something much gentler. Sleep is very good. That is also part of the word en. Why is sleep very good? Because without sleep, the mind breaks down. A person cannot learn, serve, think, or grow. The righteous sleep, regain their strength, and return to Torah. Even the wicked, when they sleep, stop doing damage for a while. But the Midrash adds balance. A little sleep is good. Excessive sleep can become an escape. So even rest has to serve life. Sometimes, the holiest thing a person can do is stop, recover, and begin again with a clearer mind. Then, the chapter gives another famous teaching. The evil inclination is very good. That sounds even stranger. But the Midrash explains, without the yetzer hara, the evil inclination, a person would not build a house, marry, have children, conduct business, or compete to improve. The same energy that can pull a person into selfishness can also be redirected into responsibility. Ambition can become generosity. Desire can become commitment. Competition can become excellence. Anger at injustice can become courage. The Midrash is not praising evil behavior. It's saying that raw human drive is part of creation. The question is, what we do with it. A clock only works because forces pull against each other. A human being grows because there is resistance. If there were no inner struggle, there would be no moral victory. That is why the yetzer hara can be called very good, not because we obey it, but because overcoming it, redirecting it, and using its energy for holiness gives life its depth. Next, Rabbi Huna says that very good refers to the measure of goodness, and the added word includes afflictions. Afflictions are also called very good. Again, we need to say this carefully. The Midrash is not romanticizing suffering. It's not saying pain is pleasant. It is saying that hardship can become a form of discipline that turns a person back toward life. The verse says, reproving discipline is the way of life. Sometimes a person is moving in the wrong direction, and comfort lets him keep going. Then a disruption wakes him up. A loss, a limitation, a failure, or a fear can become the moment he asks, what am I doing with my life? The Dubno Maggid compares this to seasoning. Plain food is good, but spices can bring out flavor that was hidden. So too, life is good, but challenge can reveal strengths, prayers, humility, and compassion that were hidden. The goal is not suffering. The goal is the life that suffering can sometimes awaken. Then the Midrash turns to Gan Eden and Gehinnom. Rabbi Zeira says, behold, it was very good, refers to the Garden of Eden, and the added word includes Gehinnom. The parable is of a king who owns an orchard. He brings workers in and tells them that whoever works faithfully will enter the storehouse and enjoy the fruit. Whoever does not work faithfully will not enter. Gan Eden is the fruit of a life aligned with God. Gehinnom is the consequence of refusing that alignment. Here again, the Midrash calls even consequence very good. Because a world without consequence is not a moral world. If nothing matters, then kindness and cruelty become equal. But they are not equal. A life of mitzvos and a life of corruption do not lead to the same place. Judgment means the world has meaning. The Midrash continues with the angel that preserves life and the angel of death. A king prepares a banquet. The one who eats and blesses the king is beloved. The one who eats and refuses to bless has turned the gift into rebellion. The point is simple. Life is a banquet. Food, breath, family, time, talent, opportunity, all of it is given. When a person receives life with gratitude and mitzvos, life itself preserves him. When a person consumes the banquet and refuses the king, the same gift becomes the basis for judgment. That leads to another teaching. Beneficence is good, and retribution is also very good. Kindness is obviously good, but accountability is also good. The Midrash says that from the beginning of creation, God foresaw the measure with which each person would act and that heaven would measure him in return. Measure for measure is not revenge. It is moral clarity. The way we live becomes the shape of what returns to us. Then the Midrash plays with the word me'ot. Very, its letters can be arranged to spell Adam. Once the human being is created, the world can be called very good. Why? Because Adam brings the entire creation to its purpose. The animals live. The trees grow. The stars shine. But the human being can recognize the Creator, bless the Creator, and turn the physical world into a place of mitzvah. That is why humanity is so dangerous and so precious. A person can ruin a palace, but a person can also make it home for the king. Near the end, the Midrash includes the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of earth. The kingdom of heaven is truly good. Earthly government is only very good in a limited sense because it restrains lawlessness. Human authority is imperfect. Sometimes it is corrupt, but without any structure, people swallow each other alive. So, when the Midrash teaches us not to confuse imperfect with useless, even earthly order can serve the divine plan when it prevents chaos and protects life. Finally, the chapter ends with, "And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day." The extra language teaches that we add from the weekday into the holy. Before Shabbos begins, while it is still Friday, we already start turning toward sanctity. Creation is completed, and immediately time begins moving toward Shabbos. That is the closing message of the chapter. The world is very good, not because every detail is comfortable, but because every detail can be drawn toward God. Death humbles, sleep restores, desire can be redirected, suffering can awaken, judgment gives meaning, humanity reveals purpose, government restrains chaos, and Shabbos teaches us where the whole world is going. So, when we say, God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good, we are not saying life is simple. We are saying life is purposeful. We are saying that the pieces that look broken from inside the moment may belong to a larger mercy. And we are saying that our job is to become the kind of people who search out the hidden good, reveal it, and bring the palace back to the king. That is chapter 9. May we learn to see more deeply, choose more honestly, and take every part of creation, even the difficult parts, and turn them toward holiness. Shalom.